Welcome to Hamburg. It's the second time, actually, in a very short time span. First time we ever met was in Budapest, then in Karlsruhe at the Grenke Open, and now here in Hamburg. We even dove into Hamburg and checked it out a little bit, and you are actually recording your second ChessBase course here.
Yes.
Wow, what a career. Yeah, you very recently, actually, you were in Spain.
Yes.
And it was a chess camp. How was it? Tell me about everything.
Sure. It was super cool. So it was the Killer Chess Training Camp.
Killer Chess Training.
That's right. And that's, of course, Grandmaster Jacob Aagaard's company. They do a couple of these camps a year, I think, or maybe one a year. So it was in person. There's other coaches there as well. And not too big, maybe a dozen or 24 or so players. Split up into a couple of groups. It was a week long at this resort in Almeria, and then it was followed with a tournament after that as well, an open tournament.
Oh, yeah, true. So how did that go?
The tournament did not go great.
What have you learned?
There's a lot of there's a lot of campers in the tournament, so everyone's just very, very motivated, very tough. Although I didn't really struggle against them. I struggled more against the Grandmasters. Mm-hmm. But overall, the camp was fantastic. I've been reading Aagaard's books for many years, since I was a kid. And I think he's one of the greatest coaches out there and authors. So to learn from him in person was quite a treat. Because I just find he's just very insightful about the game, very wise. So anytime he talks about chess, I'm happy to listen.
And all of that is part of your personal journey, and I think it's still a thing you want to become a Grandmaster, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm an international master now. I've been wanting to be a Grandmaster since before I became an IM, mm-hmm. So it's always been like the ultimate goal. I love chess. I feel like I've dedicated my life to chess so far, and that just seems like the most reasonable goal one could have is to become GM.
But of course, you took the hard path because for a typical chess player who wants to become a Grandmaster, they are not only obsessed with chess, they do nothing else than chess. And although you are basically doing nothing else than chess-related stuff, the other things you're doing are not part of your training or how to get more elo. So you are a streamer, you have written books, you have made tons of courses. ChessDojo is the company you're working and streaming and training and coaching for. You're doing lots of content, not only for your social media stuff, but also for Twitch, YouTube, etc. That's rough.
Yeah, no, it's no joke. It certainly gets in the way of the ultimate goal. But I mean, I guess I've been working in chess for quite some time, and the goal was always just to be able to support my travels and tournaments, and that was always like the main goal. But then, yeah, in the last 5-10 years or so, it's clear like chess culture has kind of exploded. The content market and yeah, very much become like a content creator, chess influencer type. And I mean, I like chess, I like playing, but I also like growing the game, sharing the game with others, teaching others, helping others on their journey as well. So yeah, I'm very much often split between multiple desires.
Talking about split, what a segue, because I was thinking, did you ever think about splitting those 2.5 and go like, okay, I'm going all in the chess career, or like, stop this Grandmaster thing, I'll be a content creator, streamer, that's my thing. Were there ever parts in your life where you go like, okay, now I cannot handle this anymore, or that just stops me from pursuing?
I've definitely considered it, and there are definitely, let's say, phases in my life where I focus on one more than the other. Especially like, okay, during the pandemic, there wasn't a lot of chess to be played. So I definitely was focusing on growing ChessDojo, and that's when it was started, essentially COVID year, 2020. And yeah, there are times where I think like, okay, if I really wanted to get serious about it, I would have to stop working as much and just study and play. But yeah, ultimately it's very hard to give one up. I truly like love both parts. Yeah, there's a sense of missing out. If I only did chess, only playing, then I feel like I would fall behind on the content side, and vice versa. If I only did content, then I would basically be giving up on my dreams in the long run. So I'm trying to have my cake and eat it too. Kind of like the goal is, trying to still improve my chess while making content, kind of tracking the journey. The cool thing is people are very interested in the journey, so I do get a lot of support just by kind of publicly going for the title.
How do you keep yourself motivated to always be focused on this journey? Because I can just imagine how hard this is also.
Yeah, I mean, right. I mean, going for GM, it's definitely like, it doesn't pay. It's quite expensive. And it's filled with a lot of setbacks, basically. Like any tournament that's not successful, anytime I lose a game, it just feels like a punch to the gut, basically. So motivation is tough. I guess for me, I always come back to just thinking about what would I rather be doing? And then I have a really hard time answering that question if it's not playing chess. So for the moment, I very much enjoy the game. I'm definitely not just playing for the result, which would be crazy because I don't often get good results. But I still like learning about the game and feeling like I'm learning new ideas and improving my skills. And so as long as the game stays fun, then I think I'll keep playing.
When you think back, when you had a rating of roughly, let's say 2000, how long ago was that probably?
I would have been maybe 15 years old.
15 years, yeah. Right now you are?
32.
32. So when you could go back to the age of 15, what would you have done differently to get an even higher rating, if that is possible?
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, I guess I would have tried to work less, maybe lived at home longer, because I moved out, I guess I was maybe 19 or 20. I ended up going to grad school in St. Louis. I probably would have stayed at home longer, obviously studied a lot more, tried to work with a coach. It's very easy to think about it now, but back then it's like
obviously
wasn't so obvious. But yeah, basically I would have just tried to dedicate a lot more time to training, and especially thinking about like the long run. So I wouldn't try to concern myself with like, oh, how am I going to get to like 21, 2200? I would just be like, no, my goal is GM. I just need to work like 10 hours a day and then play many tournaments as I can.
Interesting. Of course, you've done a lot of coaching too, from young students to old students in different levels. Which was your lowest level you were ever training? Did they ever even have a rating, or?
Yeah, I've worked with lots of beginners. I used to teach in after-school programs, and then that would require like teaching the rules and stuff and how pieces move and just the absolute basics.
What about highest rated players you ever coached?
The highest rated player would have been Grandmaster Hammer, Jan Ludwig Hammer. I didn't really coach him so much as it was like a collaboration.
Wow!
But we did some content together where
cool.
basically I would give him puzzles and stuff, and he would try and solve and work on his calculation. But it really wasn't coaching in the sense that I was like giving him tips.
I understand. But when you look at all the people you were coaching, which were a lot, and with your experience, there was probably a moment where you were thinking, why does almost everybody make the same mistake? Which mistake would that be? Or what does everybody get wrong, kind of, when they're trying to learn something?
I would say the biggest mistake, at least the one that frustrates me the most, is when people are, let's say, content with where they're at, and they don't really strive for more. So I'll give you like an example.
I see.
Sometimes I give students like a puzzle, or I'm teaching a group class, and it's like, clearly the idea is to find some solution, some tricky move, and there's always like one student or two that are like, well, I would just play this safe move H3, and I'm like, I know that's what you would play. That's why we're working on, trying to find stronger moves that require a little bit more. Like, I get that during the game, you're just trying to like not blunder and play safe. But of course, if you're trying to get to a higher level, that requires you to work harder at the board and calculate more and consider moves that you wouldn't immediately be apparent to you.
How nice. Yeah, it reminds me of myself too in some moments. Although I'm not the safe player, but I'm normally this one who, I would just sacrifice my bishop here, for example, and you would probably go like, oh. Yeah, anyway. Calculation training, that's another thing which is deeply seated in your heart, kind of, which you are also basically doing here at the ChessBase too. You are doing a lot of calculation training for that. What is your go-to method or your for prepping for calculation?
Like teaching calculation. Also, okay, it very much depends on the level, like where someone is at, because I think calculation has different stages. I believe that before you can even get to like calculation, you need like a tactical foundation. You need to be familiar with like basic tactical themes. So if someone hasn't quite mastered like simple tactics yet, then I don't think it makes a lot of sense to work on like the deeper stuff. Because a lot of times when you're calculating deeply in a game, you have to see a lot of variations, a lot of branches, and then that requires you to find a lot of simple tactics in your analysis, in your visualization. So if your pattern recognition isn't really built up yet, it's going to be very hard to try and think deeper. And I think that's not really the way to do it. So I think you have to start with some kind of like significant tactical foundation. You're familiar with the themes and the patterns. And then gradually work your way up from there. So after simple tactics, you have, let's say, simple combinations, which is like tactics that are combined, multiple themes in a puzzle. Then you have slightly more advanced combinations. And once you can calculate like a 3 or 4 move combination with accuracy, then that's when it's like you can get into like deeper, trickier calculation stuff where the solution isn't so obvious, it's not so direct. There's like opponent's resources to think about, and yeah, that's when you get into the harder stuff.
My goodness, yeah, that is quite a lot. Wow. When we were walking through Hamburg, we looked at the Elbphilharmonie. We went to the Schanze, full of people. It was a beautiful sunny day. We were also talking about a lot of themes, for especially philosophy and self-development, which we are both fans and keen about that. And I was wondering, is there a lesson which you got from chess for life?
Yeah, actually, I think chess is quite amazing when it comes to teaching you life lessons through the context of the game. In particular, it really teaches you how to deal with losses and how to take responsibility, because ultimately you're the only one making the moves on the board. Like if you compare it to other games, like card games, there's like luck involved, there's other things you can blame. But that's what I've always liked about chess, is that it's all decided on the board and it all comes down to what you put in. Yeah, ultimately I feel like, chess has taught me that, there are consequences to your actions. Yes. And so if you play quickly, you blunder, that's on you. If you spend too much time and you end up blundering later, it's still on you. It's like, I guess I haven't really thought about this too much, but yeah, I do think that chess is really helpful in terms of building like a healthy mindset.
How much do you think chess or luck has a place in chess? Is there even luck involved in chess in some ways, or is it purely that's the rules, it's all on you, as you just said?
I would say like there is luck, but not in like the same sense that there's luck in other games like poker, for example. A really simple case is when someone prepares some line for some game, and then it doesn't happen. And then the next round, their opponent plays into that same variation, thinking that they're surprising the player, whereas in fact they're actually just kind of walking into a minefield. And so this, I feel like, is a bit lucky or unlucky depending on whose side you're on. But I think stuff like that can happen. But yeah, I don't think it's luck in the same sense that it's just like a coin flip.
When you look at other people who are creating chess content, what would you wish for that most people who are doing the chess content would go more or deeper into chess?
I would, I guess I would love to see more chess history, especially combined with games. So I feel like often content creators show some interesting game or something, but they don't always like explain the context that like this was an interzonal or this was a team match, you know, and I mean, it's very hard to do this kind of content because it requires a lot of research, but I think that's some of the most valuable content when someone shows a game and then kind of shows like the history of the line. You know, like 3 years ago, Botvinnik tried this move, and then this was refuted by this idea, and then 2 years later, they found this thing. And it's like, it's very hard to find those stories, but they're very much out there, and I think that's like a great way of sharing chess ideas.
You have a very, very nice sense of humor, in my opinion. And there's no wonder that you also participated in improv, even comedy styles like this. Did you ever think about combining this with chess, like chess comedy?
Not so much. So I did. I was into improv when I was a late teenager.
Yeah.
And I was part of teams. I would perform. You know, super fun. There's definitely a time when I kind of wanted to, like growing up in Los Angeles, I wanted to be like a comedic actor or writer or something, and I was very much on that trajectory. But then I also started getting serious about chess, and eventually I realized I had to pick one because I would have tournaments that clash with shows and rehearsals.
Otherwise, we would see you in Dune 3 very soon or something like that.
For
maybe.
instance,
Yeah.
you know. But okay, ultimately I decided I needed to kind of quit and just focus on chess because I realized like I couldn't do both. And with chess, I felt like, ironically, it was more of a sure thing than trying to break into like show business. And I guess they did kind of merge at one point when I started streaming, because I would say when you're streaming, you're definitely being an entertainer.
For sure.
And so I would say that has definitely helped a lot. I remember I did a stream with the Indian comic Samay Raina. Yeah, it was a hilarious guy, brilliant. And he, because he's a comedian, we were talking about it, and so I mentioned my improv background. And then he was like, oh, let's do some improv games on the stream. And then it was like, wow, I had no idea what it was like to improv with like a professional comedian, because he just completely blew me off the water.
Oh, wow.
I mean, it had been a couple of years, you know, since I had some practice, but like, yeah, that was a fun experience.
So you played in Karlsruhe, you played in the Open, and how did that go, actually?
It was okay. Like, I feel I didn't play my best in the tournament. I ended up gaining, I think, like 2 rating points, but I definitely wasn't satisfied with the level of my play. I kind of felt a lot of pressure during the tournament. Like, I had to try to win every game, and so that wasn't a good recipe. But it was a very enjoyable tournament, just because it was so massive. Like, there's so many players, and it was incredibly strong given the Freestyle Open that was happening. So it was quite a treat. Actually, it was first time in several years that I had seen Magnus in person. So watching him play is always a pleasure. And from where I was sitting, I could see him up on the stage too. And cool. So I would often just, when it wasn't my move, sometimes when it was, I would just stare at him because he's so interesting to look at. Something about Magnus,
absolutely.
He just has like this focus. And when you watch him play, I mean, it's truly like watching a great artist like at work. So it's quite something.
Yeah, he even had kind of the stage built up too, so no wonder about that. When was actually the very first time, not to something completely different, when was the very first time you had contact with the ChessBase software?
Oh, that would have been many years ago when I was a kid. I forget which one I started with. I think it was either ChessBase 8 or 9. And I don't remember how I got ChessBase. It must have been my dad that set it up on my computer or something. I'm not sure. Yeah, I remember just like inputting some games, looking at some games. I mean, I was it was very foreign to me, like analyzing a bit. I think it took me several years before I understood like how useful the program actually was.
Definitely not a toy, yeah. And did you have a favorite function back then, or do you have a favorite function now about ChessBase?
One thing I really like about ChessBase now, given that I'm a content creator, is the ability to search for similar patterns.
The search, yeah, there's new search options there.
I find that incredibly useful. I did a course in the past on positional sacrifices, and I remember using the search function to just look at similar examples, like rook takes c3 in the Sicilian. I knew about like maybe one famous game, Movsesian Kasparov, and then I could just use it to find 10, 20, 30 other similar sacrifices.
Cool.
And yeah, in general, if I'm looking for like a specific idea, I find that incredibly useful. Actually, this course I'm doing now on positional play, I had a whole section on like maneuvers, thematic maneuvers, and that was incredibly useful just to find similar cases of that.
Do you have a favorite chess book of all time? That's often a question asked, but often enough it's very interesting for a lot of viewers.
Yeah, there's a lot of great books I like. So I'm not sure I have like a favorite. One book I really like, I've read a couple times, is Aagaard's Thinking Inside the Box. It's one of his newer ones in the Grandmaster Preparation series. And it's kind of like a summation of a lot of his teachings, a lot of his beliefs on like how to work on your game, how to define your style, mindset stuff, like all kinds of things that are just very, very relevant for chess players. And so I find myself coming back and like rereading that book quite a bit, just because it's so it's just packed full of advice.
Do you have an opening which you will never, for the rest of your life, ever get tired of?
Probably the King's Indian defense.
How come?
So I grew up a very positional player, and I would play d4, and then I was playing like the Nimzo, and as a d4 player, I would sometimes struggle against some more dynamic openings, like Benoni, King's Indian, Grunfeld, and one day I think I was somewhere around 2350, 2360. I was fighting or going for the IM title. I don't think I had any norms yet. And I just got tired of losing to the King's Indian, which happened quite a lot. And so, because I felt like, I felt like it's not a correct opening. I felt like black is giving up all this space. White is always better. The engine gives +1 in every position. I just thought I just thought it's such a cheap opening. It's like, you give your opponent an advantage, and then you have all these like tricks and this like long-term attack, and then somehow it just always works out. So I decided that I'm going to learn it. And either it's an unstoppable opening, and now I'll win games as black, because I was also playing a lot of open tournaments, so I wanted to win many games against lower-rated players. Or I felt like at least I would learn what the issue is and why it's not so simple, and then that would hopefully help me from the white side. So I picked it up, I started playing it, I started studying it. Of course, it's like a fascinating opening. I mean, lots of brilliant players have played it, and there's many amazing games. So you have Fischer, Kasparov, Nakamura, like all these incredible players with King's Indian masterpieces. And then once I started checkmating people on the black side, I kind of just got hooked, and I realized like it's actually a very rich opening, and the ideas really go deep into the middle game, and you have all these practical chances. And now it's the only thing I play against 1d4, and some people think it might be holding me back because it's such a sharp opening, but I would rather play that than anything else.
That is super interesting. What was one of the weirdest or funniest thing you've ever witnessed during one of the many tournaments you played?
Okay, I'm going to need a second here.
Absolutely, yeah, it's a difficult question.
Oh boy, let me think. Okay, I've got one. All right. Actually, this was really great.
I'm already bored.
I'm glad I
Cannot be good that good.
I'm glad I thought about it.
Okay,
Okay, there was a player. I won't say who.
that's a good start.
And it was a strong grandmaster. And I remember he showed up to this tournament I was playing at, and okay. The weird thing is he started the tournament really well, something like 3 out of 3. But then he lost the game, and I remember when he lost the game in round 4 or whatever it was, I already remember he was acting strangely. So, for instance, he was walking back to the board up on the stage. His opponent had just made a move and was walking down. Normally, the two players would just pass each other and not acknowledge each other because it's in the middle of the game.
Yeah.
But I remember seeing him pass his opponent and just like wave at him, just as they're passing, just like, hey. Which I already thought was like so very strange.
Absurd.
Then the next round, he lost that game. The next round, he's playing near me. And he shows up late. And he sits down at the board. I mean, the games have started. He's like 20 minutes late. He plays e4. His opponent's there. And he tells his opponent out loud, so I could hear him. I mean, everyone could hear him around. He says, if you play e5, I promise not to play the king's gambit. His opponent is a known e5 player. So the dude goes e5. I mean, that's his repertoire.
Yeah.
And then, of course, he bangs out f4.
Oh my goodness.
And he lost that game as well.
Wow.
And yeah, so it was a bit bizarre behavior, but that definitely was years ago.
That was an impact. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I'll ever forget.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. This is actually the beauty of tournaments sometimes, right? That there are those, I can also tell like a handful of absolute crazy weird things happening because humans are humans and sometimes we are super weird people.
Chess players are weird. And this is a player who, you know, is incredibly strong. I think much stronger than I'll ever be. But okay, you know, there have always been characters in chess and there will always be characters.
Yeah. Yeah. That's an amazing thing, absolutely. One last question I have for you is, what will happen in the next couple of weeks or even months? Where are you going to? Is your European tour coming to an end? And when will you come back?
Yes, sadly, I won't be in Europe for much longer. I've got one more tournament at the end of this month in Italy, a small open tournament. After that, I am returning to the United States. I won't be going home, actually. I'll be going directly to Las Vegas for the National Open, where I will be doing commentary. Thankfully, I won't be playing because the jet lag would just be insane. But I will be working at the event. There'll be a number of streamers there as well, so I'll be helping promote it. I'll be doing the commentary for the main event, and yeah, and that'll be super fun. So I'm looking forward to that.
Impressive.
Then at some point, I'll go back home to St. Louis. There's some big events in St. Louis coming up, like the Cairns Cup will be there.
Oh, yeah.
We have the U.S. Juniors and U.S. Senior Championships over the summer. And then, of course, the big Sinfield Cup and St. Louis Rapid and Blitz in August as well. So I might be around for those in St. Louis. I don't actually have a ton of plans for the rest of the year. I'm already thinking about when I can come back to Europe to play more. It might be sooner. It might be like end of July. I'm back here to play more events. I mean, the reason for that is just I just enjoy playing in Europe so much more.
That's nice.
Yeah, I've grown a bit tired of the U.S. Opens, the 2 rounds per day, the expensive hotels, the bad food. You know, I could talk about it.
People in the U.S., I'm sorry, it's like
don't tweet at me. But in Europe, it's just so nice, you know. And I think a lot of Europeans that have never played in the U.S. don't even know how good they have it. You know, I mean, things that you would think are basic, like showing up to a tournament and there being boards and sets, for instance. You know, not having to bring your own stuff.
That's a normal thing, normally, yeah.
I mean, very, very normal. The smallest tournament in Europe will have very nice wooden sets that they provide for the players. The biggest tournaments in the US, blank tables, you know, you bring your own stuff. Of course, not everywhere. There are some very nice places, St. Louis, Charlotte, that have, I would say, European conditions. So they're very nice to play there. But, you know, if I'm committing my life to the game, I really want to enjoy it. And 2 rounds per day is tough. With 1 round per day, I really feel like that's the true chess experience. Like you prep for the game, you come play the game, you give it your all, then you're tired, then you can like review the game, you know, go over it, rest, and then get ready for the next day. With 2 rounds per day, you give it your all in your first game, you're done for the second game. You know, it's a real, it's just a completely different experience. So. Yeah, as much as I can, I would love to come back to Europe and play more.
That sounds great. I have to ask one more question though. Las Vegas, you said you're going to be there very soon. There's also going to be the freestyle chess event, but that is another day, right? You won't be there, will you?
Yeah, that's happening, I think, in July, so a bit later. I have no plans to visit it right now, but that would be really cool. I'm definitely a huge believer in freestyle because I think one day it's going to be considered the real chess.
Oh wow!
I think one day in maybe many years from now, I'm not sure. I think the way chess will be played is you'll start and just randomize the pieces and get going. And this classic position, I think maybe we'll use it for training purposes. It's like training wheels, you know, teaching people how to fight for the center, how to, you know, develop your pieces reasonably. But I do think one day we're just going to switch over to freestyle, and so I'm definitely a big supporter of it.
Kostya, thank you very much.
Thank you.